on this episode of The Breakthrough Show. First up, we're catching up with returning guest author Dr. Adrienne MacIain. Last season, she shared her incredible story of triumph over an abusive relationship as told in her memoir, Melting Ivory. Today, she's back to share about the next steps in her new book, Enough. Later on in the show, we'll be meeting relationship coach Roman Mironov. In our conversation, you'll learn about his breakthroughs in immigrating from Russia to North America, and of course, the relationship breakthroughs that inspired him to do the work he does today. From the relationship with yourself, to friends, to lovers, today's show is sure to leave you feeling inspired to make fresh choices. All that and more coming up today on The Breakthrough Show.
Life gives us moments when we have the opportunity to make a choice, and what we choose has the potential to change our lives forever. Join us now for another inspired episode of The Breakthrough. And now, please welcome the creator and host of the show, Jessica Dugas.
Welcome back to another episode of The Breakthrough Show. It is the daytime talk show helping inspire you to change the way you look at and live your life. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I have some fabulous guests for you today. The first of which was here with me last season, and I love her to pieces. She had an amazing book at the time called Melting Ivory, and now she has another one. So I invited her back today to share a little bit about that. Please welcome back to the show, Dr. Adrienne MacIain. Welcome back.
You know, I love being on your show because you pronounce my name correctly.
Well, there was a lot of effort that
I know. I'm honoring the effort.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Sometimes I try, and for what I don't know, but I've managed to work this one out. It's good.
Absolutely.
It's good. I'm so excited to have you back here. Why don't you start us out? You know how I like to do, share something that's bringing you joy today.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, there's so much bringing me joy today. I mean, I'm feeling hopeful that people in 2020, I feel like a lot of people woke up to some really difficult realizations, and their emotions were just all over the place, right? And a lot of my 2020 was spent helping people figure out how to process those emotions and how to use those emotions to create something better. And so I feel like now so many of us are awake. We're here. We know what's going on. And we are ready to make some changes, internal, external, real, beautiful commitments to ourselves and what really matters to us. So what's bringing me joy right now, not just today, but in general, is just seeing so many people awake and aware of their own values and aligning to those values and creating beauty in the world. It's just, it's gorgeous.
I love that. Well, I am excited to have you back here. I want to hear about your new book, Enough. Tell us about how that came about.
Absolutely. So this book came about actually because of the response that I got to Melting Ivory. I had so many people writing me, calling me, asking me, hey, what happened next? How did you get from there to where you are now? And how can I do that too? And all of these people, especially in 2020, so many people were stuck with their abusers, stuck inside, couldn't go out, couldn't get away, didn't have the usual outlets to deal with emotional abuse.
Right.
And we're recognizing more than ever that this behavior is abusive, that gaslighting is gaslighting, and that, you know, when someone lies to you over and over and over again, there comes a point where you just have to say, wait, you know, I have to trust my own intuition. I have to trust my own instincts and figure out what's going on, you know, for me. So I created this book basically as a guidebook to say, if you are in an emotionally abusive relationship, and it's specifically for romantic relationships, but it really applies to a lot of different kinds of relationships. If you find yourself in a relationship where you don't feel like you can live your values, you don't feel like you can be you and be loved at where you're at, that there's a continual expectation that you're not good enough and you need to change something. If you find yourself in a relationship like that, first of all, anyone can end up in an emotionally abusive relationship.
Yes.
It doesn't say anything about you. It just says that that's what happened and that's where you're at. And so there's a lot of shame around it. And I think what keeps people there longer than they need to be is that shame and feeling like they have to double down and say, no, 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 I was right to pick this person. I had my reasons. Of course you had your reasons. And they must have been really good reasons if you stayed even after things got abusive.
Right.
I get it. I 120% get it.
Yeah.
That said, there comes a time when you have to say, no matter the sunk cost, no matter how far you've gone down this wrong road, it's time to turn back. But how? But how? And so that's what this book is the how. It's how to recognize a situation that is abusive, how to get yourself out of that situation, and how to do the self-work to make sure that you don't end up back in that relationship or any emotionally abusive relationship. Because what so often happens, and this is exactly what happened to me, is that you get out of that relationship and then you find yourself playing that out over and over again in different situations with different people. And I like to use the analogy. It's like I got stung by a bee and I didn't like that. And so I decided I was going to learn everything that I could about bee stings. So I became lots of times and then became allergic to bees. So now I can recognize a bee from very far away. Like, hey, that's a bee. This is what bees do. Let's stay away.
Yeah.
So that's what the thrust of it is all about. But there's so much more to it than just it's really, really meant for people who find themselves either in, a dysfunctional or abusive relationship, or someone you care about is in a situation like that and you want to help them. Because so many people come to me and say, hey, I think my sister or my friend or, my brother or whoever it is in this abusive relationship, but they're not recognizing it. How do I help them? And so, first of all, read the book. But second of all, just recognize that if you try to force them out, they will dig even deeper.
Right.
They will entrench themselves even deeper. The best thing you can do for that person is to create a stable situation that they can jump into and really empower them to make that jump on their own. Let them know you're there for them. Let them know that you will help them if they decide that they need a change. And let them know that they have the strength, they have the power to make that change for themselves.
I love that. And we touched on that a little bit last time when you were here, because that was one of my questions, was if someone was looking into the situation, what could they do? Because in the experience that I had so many people just saying, you need to get out, you need to get out, you need to get out. And I did just that. I did exactly what you said, which was dig in deeper. And so I loved that we touch on that. And I love that that's a part of your book and all of that. I also love that you mentioned that this is about romantic relationships, but also to take a look at these different patterns and other relationships that you have, because I think sometimes we get stuck in this, well, everybody has the right to their opinion and their thoughts and which is true. However, how many times are we going to be a doormat?
And the bottom line is that until you figure out how to love yourself, nothing's going to work out for you, babe. And it sucks because that is so easily said and so difficult to do.
Right.
Just love yourself. Just be yourself. Just love yourself. Like, okay, myself, love. What even are these things?
Yeah.
Right? I don't know who I am. I don't know what love is. The only experience I've ever had was, this abusive form of love where I was told that lying to me and hurting me are ways to show, your love for me. And so if you don't know what respectful love feels like, how do you respect yourself? And how do you love yourself in a way that is compassionate and kind?
Right. So many those are big, big lessons.
It's big stuff. And how do you, how do you set a boundary? What even is a boundary?
Right.
And so all of these things I had to learn the hard way because I did not have those examples growing
Right.
up. And I did not get taught that. Nobody gets taught this stuff in
Right.
school or anyplace
Yeah.
else. And so you just learn by what you see. And so if you have a dysfunctional example growing up, that's probably what you're going to end up playing out by default, unless you
Right.
do that work yourself to find out what is a boundary, what is love, what is self-love, what is self-compassion. And so that's what most of this book is just teaching people how to love and respect themselves enough to set boundaries and demand a certain level of treatment from the people we allow into our inner circle. And if
Yes.
and here's the other thing, when you allow someone to abuse you, you are harming them too. You are doing unspeakable damage to that person that you claim to love too, by allowing them to mistreat you and having no consequence for that.
Right. Right.
It is teaching them that abuse is love, which they then treat themselves that same way. And it allows that pattern to repeat. And so, as I say in the book, it isn't your fault, but it is your responsibility
Yes.
to make a change.
Yes.
But the only person you can change in that situation is you. In any situation, you can only change you.
Absolutely.
And so this book is just all about how to change you and how to keep yourself safe from that person who needs to go and do their own work. And you cannot do it for them.
That's what I always loved about, that's what I loved the first time you were on the show, is that you have this perspective of, things can happen to us, but then it's our responsibility what we do with it from there forward, to grow and to learn and to not repeat the same patterns over and over and over, like we do sometimes because we're stubborn humans. But it's, and for those of you guys that have, first of all, if you did not see the original episode that Adrienne was in, season 4, episode 24 of last year, it came out. So go look for that at thebreakthroughshow.com, and you'll understand that she's not coming from a place of like, this is just what you need to do. This is, I lived it. And these were the things that I learned because I learned the hard way. And so you can take it from me that these are some good ideas for you. Melting Ivory was written from your journals, your journal entries that you had made. So it's a little bit more of a storytelling type of book, where this one is, how is this one written? Is it just like, bullet points, or what are we getting when we get this book?
There's some of both. There's stories in there too, because of course, like I said, the story didn't end at the end of Melting Ivory. The story continues. And like I said, I ended up playing out this pattern way more times than I expected to. I thought, I'm done with this. I'll recognize it right away and I'll be able to stay away from it. And I didn't, and I couldn't, because I hadn't done the internal work yet. I had gotten myself out of that situation, but I hadn't fixed the real problem. That was just a symptom.
Right.
And so it kept happening until I finally realized, wait a second, the problem isn't any of them. I mean, the problem is all of them. But the real problem is me picking them over and over again, and inviting and allowing that kind of treatment of me, and accepting it and saying, yes, this is how I want to be treated. Because you show people how to treat you.
Right.
You show people how to treat you by how you treat yourself and how you respond to how they treat you.
Right. Right.
And so I needed to teach myself how to treat me, and to show other people that example of how to treat me and how I expect to be treated. And so this was my journey to the wonderful, amazing relationship that I'm in now. of me having to do that self-work
Mm.
and recognize that this is where it needed to start before I could find that in someone else and create a
Absolutely.
relationship on it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is so good. And I know that, first of all, if you haven't gotten Melting Ivory, rewind, go get that one. But I am really excited to get my copy of Enough. I think it's actually
Yeah.
coming today. So I'm like,
Yay.
hello, mailman, where are you?
And also there's a lot of actual workbook stuff in here. There
Oh,
are
good.
exercises. It's not just, do this, do that. It's like, okay, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do this.
Mm.
And so there's a bunch of exercises and there's a bunch of it's pretty fun and interactive. There's quizzes and there's, charts. And so it's not, like I said, there's stories in it, but then there's actual, how to do this step by step
Mm.
guidance in there as well.
I
Because
love
that's
it.
what I found is like there were all these self-help books, that I read, but what I found is that it was just somebody saying, well, here's why this is happening. And I
Mm.
was like, well, yeah, okay, I get that. But now what? What do I
Yeah.
do about that?
Right.
It's like now I
Right.
understand the mechanism and it's like I understand exactly what's going on and I recognize the abuse and I know that it's happening and I still can't stop it.
Yeah.
It just keeps happening.
Mm.
Why?
Not anymore. Not
Not
anymore. We're
anymore.
not doing this.
Nope.
We're not doing this.
Nope.
I love it. Thank you so much for the work that you do in the world and for using your experiences that were, horrific in the moment to change the world. And I just thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. And I just want to say to everyone out there, whatever it is that you're going through, keep going, find help. That's the main message of the book, is that if you could have gotten out of this on your own, you would have by now. And there are people and there are, organizations out there to help you. Reach out for help. It's never too late.
Absolutely. Tell everybody where they can get the book.
They can get the book on Amazon. It is called Enough. I think the subtitle is Breaking the Cycle of Emotional Abuse in Relationships. And yeah, you can also find it on my website, which is that'sallowed.com.
I still love that name. I love it so much. It's like the best play on words ever.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being back here today with me, my friend, and for your friend that came along for the premiere this season as well. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
All right, guys, we'll be back in just a minute with our special guest today on the Breakthrough Show.
Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Welcome back to the Breakthrough Show. We've talked about so often over the last 5 seasons, specifically about how relationships are such a huge component of living a successful life. And I'm so excited that our special guest today has been trained by Tony Robbins to help us do just that. He is here to help us create amazing relationships and a happy life. Please welcome Coach Roman Mironov to the show. Welcome, Roman.
Hi, Jessica. Thank you so much. It's an honor for me to be on your show.
Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to dig in and get started to talk about creating these amazing relationships because, like I said, it is so important, such a big part of our lives. And I would love for you to start us off by sharing something that's bringing you joy in your life right now.
Yeah, I was just on a call with a client, and we did a quick exercise with him, which included meditation and visualization. And he said that his feedback was very, very positive. And he said that he felt peaceful as a result. And the other thing is, it was a great reminder for him to be doing more of that, especially in his miracle morning. It was
Yes.
he used to visualize a lot and meditate actually in the morning, but then he stopped and he realized that now he actually needs to go back to that.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's so important. I find that we get in a habit of doing certain things and we kind of forget about taking care of ourselves and really taking that time to meditate and visualize, and then it becomes other things become routine and take its place, and then we do it again and go, oh, we should probably be doing this more often, right?
Yeah, those reminders are very, very helpful. We need them all the time.
I know you've had really an incredible life and have been through a lot of different things, as many of us have, and you're in Canada now, but you're not originally from there. Can you take us back to where you've come from and tell everybody a little bit about that?
Yeah, I come from Russia. I'm 38 now, and for 36 years I lived in Russia, and it was always my dream to come to live to North America
Mm,
because I was in love with it. I was in love with it because of the like 90s culture, like all those action movies and whatnot. And then I also went to work in Alaska in 2002, and then I just fell in love
wow.
with the language, with the culture, and yeah, I wanted to move to the US or Canada
Mm.
so badly. My first attempt, that was 6 years ago, failed miserably. So I was rejected by the government. And then my second attempt succeeded. And that was a huge breakthrough in so many ways.
Yeah. Was it as much as you wanted to be here and had visualized it, was there any kind of culture shock at all? Like, did you come and be like, well, this isn't exactly what I envisioned it to be? Was it different?
Of course, it wasn't a shock, but because I knew the culture,
Mhm.
right? But when I got here and actually started living here in Toronto, I was able to see the culture like more closely.
Mhm.
I was able to understand it more deeply, and then I started to notice this nuances, this like subtle things that I did not realize before. Like, let's say, mm, here people are more private compared to people in Russia, for example,
Mm.
something like that. You don't
Yeah.
you don't really understand this until you actually experience this.
Right. Right. I think it's like so many other things where we can prepare ourselves as much as possible, but you kind of have to live it to really know for sure what the experience is going to be, right?
Yeah, it's firsthand experience.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, I know that what are some of the tools and things that you have leaned on personally in order to sort of stay grounded and focus forward as you adjust to this different area of the world and different lifestyle?
We actually spoke about habits, and I think that this is a very, very, very important tool for me in terms of grounding myself. Because, uh, for example, I love to have a very, very detailed schedule for my day,
Mhm.
so that I know that I'm going from one step to another step and to the third step. And when I rely on my habits that I had back in Russia, I rely on the same habits here. They keep me going through the day without, well, let's say, feeling nostalgia,
Mm.
or they just keep me focused. That's it. For example, let's say I work out every day, And this workout, daily workout, it gives me certainty. And because certainty is such an important human need, I feel better because I feel that this need is fulfilled. And then I feel like I'm going through this shift, through this, immigration process more easily, thanks to that, because of that certainty.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting that you brought up like this need for certainty, because I've done a lot of work with my own clients recently, specifically on fulfillment and what our needs are and connecting with those things, because, one of the things that I have taught people is keeping a schedule, because it is such a huge pet peeve of mine when you have things scheduled in and then nobody shows up and it's like, what's going on? And it drives me crazy, because in my mind, if I've made an appointment, that's then my responsibility to know when it is, to have my stuff ready and be prepared, to be there and to show up. And one of the things that I've encountered is that if people are not in touch with what fulfills them and the needs that they have, then they're going to be less likely to keep up with a schedule, because they're not going to want to show up for things that aren't fulfilling to them, right?
Absolutely. And they don't realize that you're right. You're totally right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know that you really focus on relationships in your coaching business, and I know that, like a lot of other people, we go through things in our own lives that inspire us to have these different focus points in our business. What was it that you went through in your life that inspired you to focus on relationships with other people?
Yeah, 6 years ago, I went through a painful divorce with my ex-wife, and the reason she divorced me was I was so bad with her because I did not understand women at all. I was a workaholic. I worked too much and did not pay much attention to her or my small son. So they did not feel my presence in the family. And yeah, because I neglected my family so much, even though I was like, I was trying to take care of them through my work, but that wasn't enough. That's never enough.
Right.
That was my mistake. So I lost the marriage. And then I realized, okay, now that I'm single, I want to create a new family, because this is important for me. I have the strong family values. But at that point, I knew that I just did not have the relationship skills or the dating skills. So I went through a lot of training, a lot of reading, a lot of self-education to get better in relationships and dating. And then I went and applied all these things. And I created a few relationships over the years that I enjoyed. And again, I made mistakes and I learned from them.
Yeah.
And this is what helps me as a coach. First of all, people feel that I'm relatable, and I feel that I can relate to people because I've been through so much in my relationships, through so much struggle and so much growth from those struggles. And I also feel that I can share all this knowledge and all the skills that I now have. I can share them with people. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a little bit of a it's kind of a hot button topic in the coaching world when it comes to what coaches should be allowed to focus on. And there's a lot of people that say, well, if you've been divorced, you shouldn't be a relationship coach, or if you've been overweight, you shouldn't be coaching people to lose weight. And if you've been in this, then you shouldn't be doing that. And I think that sometimes we underestimate what that life experience can give us when it comes to being able, like you said, to relate to our clients. What's been your experience with that? Do you think that people have been more open to you because you have been through these things?
Absolutely. They are more open. They are more open because I could feel their pain right there. Well, let's say just today, a client told me about her. So she was married to this guy who was actually 10 years younger than her, and he was an alcoholic, and she struggled with that for about 5 years. And she always thought that she would be able to change him. And when she said all those things, I realized, yeah, I can totally understand her, because it was quite similar in my situation, because I always thought that I could change my wife, because I wanted her to be into self-development just as much as I was, and I am right now, and she didn't care about that. And I thought, okay, I'm going to change you. And I worked hard on trying to change her, which of course never worked. And so just by having these negative experiences or failures, which they are not, because those are just lessons. Right. By having these lessons, I'm able to understand my clients more. As they say, when as a coach, you're perfect, it makes it hard for you to understand clients' problems. That's the point. And let's say when you're overweight, you know exactly what they're going through. You know exactly what they're feeling. And you are more, let's say, compassionate. And this is very important. Whereas like if you are 100% high level coach who's perfect, it's hard for you to relate to a person who comes to you and says, help me with weight, of being overweight. And you say, okay, just, don't eat healthy, exercise, and that's it. Why don't you do it? And then they guilt you. They use shame, and this becomes depressing, and it never works.
Yeah, I agree. I think that because that was a little bit of my experience, was when I went to go work with or look into working with other coaches for health and things like that, and they had never been through what I had been through, and it was difficult for me because I felt like they were coming at me with things that they could never possibly understand because they hadn't been through it themselves. And I really try to, when I'm working with people as well, I only do things with my clients that I have done myself or things that I have tried myself, because I feel like if I don't live in the way that I'm preaching for my clients to live, then something's wrong with that. So what are some of the things that you share with your clients about relationships that you also do yourself?
Wow. Of course, the main component of my system, my coaching program, is unconditional love. So I live it myself in my own life, and I teach my clients to have that. Although it's not easy, but this is the foundation of any relationship. Because if you don't have it, you're going to have struggles in the relationship. There's just no other way. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And by unconditional love, I mean accepting the other person as they are and loving them just for who they are without wanting to change them. And the main reason we want to do this is because we feel love not when the other person does something for us, but when we give love. That's the most important thing. Think of a small kid, an infant. You love them just because they're there. There is no reason for you to be wanting to change them. So you just love them. But as they grow up, you find those reasons. You now say, okay, I can't love you anymore. I can't love you unconditionally because I want you to do this and that and so on.
Right.
But when you give love unconditionally, you feel it in yourself, not when the other person does something for you.
Right.
That's one thing. You don't need to actually to look for love out there, because you can feel it inside right away. The second thing is that you'll see that by loving the other person unconditionally, you make them happy, and that makes you happy as well. Just as we talked about
that
earlier, right?
Round and round relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And the third thing is that when you love the other person unconditionally, they're very, very, very likely to reciprocate. It's like you open them up. That's the power of unconditional love. even if you do just that, just this one thing, your relationship will be great. And you don't need like other things that I teach to, like more specific things that I teach to clients.
Right, right. Now, this doesn't mean that we have to like everything that the other person does, right?
Yes. You don't, as you grow as you develop unconditional love of yourself, you will actually get to like them, because what you will see is that those differences between you can appreciate them. You can appreciate the world for its differences, because it creates this multitude of sensations that you are capable of experiencing. And just unconditional love is about gratitude for all those experiences, for all those sensations, even though this might not be within our model of the world. So we want the world to be like we'd prefer it to be a little bit different, but we still enjoy it. And also remember that, like, even if there is something that you don't like in the other person, the very fact that you are different, it creates synergy. When you are the same, there is no sexual polarity, and there is no synergy. Synergy is when 1 + 1 is 5 or 10 or 100. And when you're the same, you have the same opinion, you wear the same clothes, it's boring. It's boring, and it's just 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I love that, because I think that it can be really easy, especially when we're in relationships over a long period of time, to find as time goes on, we find those little things that maybe little things that can nag us, about. I had another friend of mine on the show, Haley Halleck, last season, who works with couples a lot. And we were talking about, the way that they put the dishes away, or just something,
Oh my God.
something is like completely, and there's just so many people that will find those little faults, those little things that annoy them, instead of focusing on, hey, is that really the big picture? Is that really what we're going to focus on right now?
Yes. And that's why it's important to really make sure you appreciate the other person.
Yeah.
That's a completely different perspective, a completely different mindset, completely different paradigm of thinking when you come to just to feel gratitude for the other person and for every small thing. And when you do that, you forget about all those things that you blow out of proportion, like their socks lying on the floor. Yeah. They just don't matter. You appreciate that. Yeah. And just like you said, you remember the big picture. The big picture is that you really appreciate them for being in your life. And just one quick tip right here is that to appreciate your partner, make sure to praise them for every little thing. This will make them feel significant, which is good in and of itself. And the second thing, it will over time rewire your brain, because you will start noticing all those beautiful things about them. And just training your mind to think about what's good, not about what's bad.
Right. I think a lot of times, one of the things that I wanted to touch on with you is that expectations in relationships. So I think that it's really normal, and what, from my perspective, what I've shared with people is it's really normal for us as humans to have expectations, because a lot of times those expectations are what protects us. They're what of saying, this is the boundary that I have in my life in this certain area, and it will not be crossed, or we don't have a relationship, kind of thing. Do you think that it's wise, as people are getting into relationships, to have that conversation with their potential partner of saying, these are the things that I expect, or these are the boundaries that I have in my life, and seeing if they mesh up with other people?
Yes, I do believe in boundaries. Well, let me put it like this. The first thing is that, in general, I recommend people to, just like Tony Robbins does, to exchange your expectations for appreciations, just like we talked a couple of minutes ago. Because if you have expectations for other people, then you end up, guilting both them for not meeting those expectations, then guilting yourself, not feeling good about yourself. So if you, in general, gradually move to appreciating things more rather than expecting, that's a very good strategy. So even your expectations themselves will change. Let's say right now you can't, you want your husband to be at home at 7 p.m. And if they get back home at 8 p.m., you feel frustrated. And you can say that this is my expectation. I'm going to set this boundary. I'm going to say that they are supposed to be at home at 7 p.m. no matter what. But as you work on yourself, as you work on flexing your gratitude muscle, your appreciation muscle, you will be able to realize that it's not really that important.
Right.
If they come at 8 p.m., that's all right. That's all right. But yeah, setting your boundaries is important as well. But so this is a very, very beautiful and very, very delicate balancing act. So that's why when there is no general answer to this.
Right.
We need, with every client, when they ask me this, that's a very common question. So when I tell them about unconditional love, that's the first rejection they come up with. They say, well, if I love them unconditionally, they will, am I supposed to let them walk all over me?
Right.
And I say, no. But the point is that if you want to have that conversation for setting boundaries, you need to, first of all, do that in a very loving way. Open up the other person, listen to them first, listen to their expectations, and only then you voice your expectations.
Right.
So yeah, it is important, but you need to tread very, very carefully.
Yeah. I think it sounds like it would be wise to have that conversation in the beginning of a relationship, as opposed to, getting into a relationship and then all of a sudden, coming out with all of these, well, by the way, this is how I am. Just, you didn't know this, but now you know, kind of thing.
Yes. And definitely one thing that I do recommend to do before starting a relationship is talk about, let's say before getting married, you want to sit down and talk about your values, like family values, how many kids you want, specifics like that. Yeah, you want to do that.
Yeah. And I think, as we were talking about too, earlier in the conversation about those fulfillment needs that we have, that would be a great conversation to have too, right? Because then we would know the things that make our partner feel fulfilled, and then they would know how we feel that way as well.
Yes, exactly. Discussing these needs and using them as a framework for that discussion is really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
So I know that as we've said, when you're working with clients, that you also can have your own breakthroughs and things like that. What would you say if you had to pick just one or two of your biggest relationship breakthroughs that you have had personally? What would you say that those are?
So with my first divorce, of course, that was the breakthrough was is that I realized that I focused on one area of my life too much, which was work. And that never works, because relationships is just as important as work. So you do need to spend a lot of time there, both like physically with your presence, and you need to learn this, like in your business or in your career. You keep growing, right? You keep learning new skills, you keep taking courses and whatnot. And the same thing applies to relationships. You need to do that.
Right.
And let's say the second realization was, I think, in 2017, when I realized that I wasn't authentic enough in my relationship at that moment, because I was like playing a game with a girl, trying to get her more attracted to me. And it worked. It worked very well. So I was, like being distant at one moment. Then I like let's say I came closer, and so I created that contrast, so of negative emotions and positive emotions, and I was mysterious a little bit. I tried too much to look maybe more confident than I was, or more adventurous than I was. So I was putting on this facade. But then I realized that by doing that, I'm actually missing out on being authentic, on opening up and feeling the emotions. I was like stifling myself with this inauthenticity. So it's a little bit okay this is the realization. It might be okay to play those games a little bit,
Right.
with a woman or with a man, but make sure again that you strike a balance,
Right.
because your main point is to be authentic. If you don't do that, you like the other person won't relate to you, and you will not be able to open up yourself. You'll miss out on those beautiful feelings. Actually,
Yeah.
you're like a robot.
Yeah. I think that's such a huge thing though, because I think if we're behaving in one way as we are getting into a relationship, then couldn't that be a reason why we find ourselves in the middle of a relationship going, what happened? Because we're not the same person that we were, and imagine if both people were playing games at the beginning, and then in the middle of the relationship, they're like, who are you and what happened? Because
Exactly.
you weren't yourself.
Yeah. And that's how you end up with a stranger living or sleeping on the other side of the bed, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's such a good I think topic to talk about in relationships for anybody out there that's getting into relationships. If you're dating and things like that, be yourself. We've talked so much on this show about authenticity in our businesses that we haven't really had that conversation on the show before about really being authentic as you're getting into relationships. And I think that's important, whether we're talking about love relationships or business relationships or friendships, even. If you behave one way and then all of a sudden, suddenly you're somebody else. It leaves people wondering, who are you and what just happened?
Right.
Well, it's been amazing talking to you, Roman, because I feel like we just barely grazed the surface here of all of the knowledge that you have to share and all of the life experience that you have to share as well. If you wanted to leave our audience with one specific thing that they could do to improve their relationships today, what would you leave them with?
Okay. So other than unconditional love, it's important to understand that there's a lot of struggle and a lot of pain involved in relationships. That's given, because like they're always challenging. But what you need to develop is this mindset that I need this relationship to grow. I need this pain that I'm feeling in the relationship to become a better man or a woman. And I don't understand this right now, but I will understand it later. And the beautiful thing is that by going through all the struggles, you as a couple will be able to feel more love. Your love will strengthen, as well as your patience and resolve. So remember that relationships come with challenges, but those challenges will make you better and your couple so much more loving. As long as you keep going, as long as you keep as long as you're committed to the relationship and you don't give up, because giving up is so easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Roman, tell everybody where they can find you at and how they can work with you.
Yeah, go to my website, which is www.romanmironov.com, spelled as RomanMironov.com. Hit the contact tab, contact me for a free consultation, and we'll go from there. And make sure to mention that you're coming from Jessica's podcast, and I'll be happy to give you a 30% discount.
Awesome. We love that. Yay. Everybody, I've been telling everybody that we've had so many amazing people on the show. If you're not shopping with and working with the people that have been on the Breakthrough Show, then you are missing out, because we have some really just amazing people on the show, just like Roman. Roman, thank you so much for being here with me today. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Jessica. It's been an honor, and you're a great conversationalist. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, guys, we'll be back in just a minute for more of the Breakthrough Show. Breakthroughs are about more than you might think. They're about discovering who you are, digging deep, reaching to the core of your soul. They're about healing yourself, understanding your beliefs, creating a ripple effect. And it's not just those initial moments that matter. It's about using them to bring more joy into our own lives and the lives of others. It's about having fun, letting loose, enjoying every moment life has to offer. It's about finding a safe space. It's about creating connection. Join us each and every month for exclusive programming, where we invite you to go beyond the breakthrough. So we ask you, are you ready? We'll see you online at thebreakthroughshow.com. Welcome back to the Breakthrough Show. What an incredible show it was today. You know, relationships and the topic of relationships is something that we're going to continue to dive into here on the Breakthrough Show. Why? Because number one, that relationship with ourselves is absolutely so important. But we know that one of the amazing things about being a human is our relationship with other people, and how those can, if we allow them to, make or break our spiritual and personal development journeys. And I love that we can create a space on the show to bring different perspectives, different life experiences, different tips and tricks as it results to, like I said, not just the relationship with ourselves, but our relationship with other people. So we're going to continue to go down this journey together, where we get to talk to people from all different walks of life and who have all different backgrounds and experiences to help us improve the relationships with ourselves and with other people. I want to thank our very special guest today, Dr. Adrian McKeon. Thank you for coming back today, my friend, and also to our new friend, Roman Mironov. Thank you both for being here. And to you, thank you for watching wherever you are in the world. And until next week, I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I want to ask you to make every day a great day for a breakthrough. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Breakthrough. Please visit our website at www.thebreakthroughshow.com. And be sure to join our After the Breakthrough community powered by Patreon.